The sky over Zephyra glowed with shades of violet and gold as the twin suns began their descent. From her balcony in the royal palace, Princess Leora gazed at the horizon, her hands resting lightly on the railing. The wind carried the faint hum of energy currents that powered the floating cities, and the soft rustle of luminescent leaves drifted from the gardens below. To an outsider, it might seem serene and perfect, but inside Leora, turmoil churned. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment, or so she thought. Not for ruling Zephyra, not for leading her people through the intricate politics of interstellar alliances, but for a decision she had no say in. Today she would learn who she was to marry. The news had arrived just 2 days ago. An alliance with Earth demanded her hand in marriage. Not just any human, but a soldier, Captain Alex Mercer. Zephyra's intelligence reports painted him as a ruthless man, a tactician whose reputation preceded him as someone hardened by countless battles, someone with little concern for diplomacy or feelings. Leora had read the briefings with disbelief. How could her life, so carefully crafted and controlled, be handed over to a human she had never met? Worse, a human who was said to have no empathy, whose eyes were rumored to be as cold as the void of space. She had imagined the worst, a man who would care nothing for her thoughts, her feelings, or even the intricate culture of her people. Princess, her advisor, Elder Tyron, had said gently, "I understand your fears, but this marriage is necessary. Earth has resources that Zephyra needs, and your union could cement peace for generations." Leora had turned sharply, frustration evident in her posture. "Peace at the cost of my freedom, Tyron? Do you think I can simply accept that? To marry a stranger, one I am told I must fear?" Tyron's voice was calm, soothing, yet firm. "It is not fear we ask of you, Princess, but understanding. You are strong, intelligent, and wise. You can learn to see the man for who he is, not just the stories that surround him." Leora had clenched her fists, not convinced. She had grown up hearing tales of humans, most of them exaggerated or misunderstood, but the description of Alex Mercer was relentless, painting him as a figure who demanded obedience, not respect. She had walked away from the council chambers with a tight chest, a storm of anger and doubt swirling inside. Now, as she watched the sky, she wondered if her world was changing faster than she could grasp. She had expected to meet many challenges in life, but none like this. None that demanded she surrender herself to a man she might never trust. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, Alex Mercer was being briefed on his mission aboard the human diplomatic cruiser. He stood at attention, listening to the holographic projection of Zephyra. The floating cities, the bioluminescent forests, the glowing rivers, it was unlike anything he had ever seen. And now he was told he would meet the princess who was to become his partner in this alliance. Alex had served on countless planets, fought wars where survival depended on split-second decisions, and faced enemies who seemed impossible to defeat. Yet this mission felt different. There was no enemy to fight, only a delicate situation to navigate. And for some reason, he felt the weight of expectations heavier than any battle armor he had ever worn. "Captain Mercer," his commander said, "do you understand the importance of this union? This marriage is not just a political formality. It represents the hopes of two worlds." Alex nodded, his voice steady. "I understand, sir. I will handle it with the utmost respect." He had not seen Leora, not even a glimpse of her, yet he already felt a strange curiosity. Reports described her as intelligent, capable, and strong-willed. That she feared him and what he represented was unsurprising. Humans had a reputation, after all, but he had learned long ago that rumors rarely captured the truth. Back on Zephyra, Leora had reluctantly prepared for the official meeting. Her gown shimmered with threads of energy that mirrored the colors of the twilight sky. It was a ceremonial dress designed to convey strength, beauty, and authority, but she felt only tension as she descended the grand staircase of the palace. Each step echoed in the vast hall, a reminder that she was about to face a future she had not chosen. When she entered the meeting chamber, she froze. There he stood, Captain Alex Mercer, not as a figure of fear, but as a man. His presence was calm, not aggressive. His gaze steady, not intimidating. His uniform was simple, practical, yet there was a quiet confidence in the way he carried himself. For a moment, Leora's fear wavered. Could it be that all she had heard was wrong? Alex stepped forward, inclining his head in respect. "Princess Leora, he said, his voice calm. "It is an honor to meet you." Leora found herself responding, her voice steadier than she expected. "Captain Mercer, the honor is mine." The first moments of their conversation were cautious, filled with formalities and polite exchanges. Leora studied him carefully, noting the small details, the way he maintained eye contact without overbearing intensity, the ease of his movements, and the way he seemed genuinely interested in understanding her world, rather than simply imposing his own. Alex, for his part, observed Leora with equal care. She carried herself with the poise of a leader, yet there was a softness in her expression, a hint of vulnerability beneath the armor of confidence. He realized that she was not just a figurehead or a pawn in interstellar politics. She was a person with thoughts, fears, and convictions. Their conversation shifted toward their respective worlds. Leora described Zephyra's floating cities, the way energy flowed through the land, and the importance of harmony between nature and technology. Alex listened intently, asking questions that showed genuine curiosity rather than simple obligation. "You speak as though Zephyra itself is alive," he said, a slight smile on his face. "It must take incredible skill to maintain such balance." Leora raised an eyebrow, surprised by his observation. "And you, Captain, do you find that hard to believe?" "Not at all," he replied. "I have learned that every world has its own rhythm. It is the people who understand it that make the difference." For the first time, Leora felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this man, this human she had been taught to fear, could be different. Perhaps she could find common ground even in the unlikeliest of places, but doubts remained. The rumors of his ruthlessness were not unfounded after all, and she could not ignore the political pressures that weighed heavily on both of them. The meeting continued, the conversation gradually easing into shared laughter over minor cultural misunderstandings and mutual curiosity about each other's experiences. By the end of the day, Leora walked back to her chambers with a mixture of emotions. She was still wary, still uncertain, but the fear that had gripped her heart earlier was now tempered by intrigue. Alex Mercer was not the monster she had imagined. Perhaps he was someone she could respect, maybe even trust. Outside, the twilight deepened, the twin suns casting long shadows across the palace grounds. Leora paused at her balcony once more, looking out at the glowing forests below. Change was coming, whether she liked it or not, and she knew that the next steps would define not just her future, but the future of Zephyra and its people. And somewhere across the galaxy, Captain Mercer was doing the same, unaware that the first impression they had made on each other would be the foundation for something far greater than politics. A partnership, a bond, and perhaps even mutual admiration born out of understanding, respect, and the courage to see beyond rumors. The night fell, and the palace lights shimmered against the darkening sky. Two worlds were on a collision course, guided by the hands of fate, diplomacy, and the decisions of a princess who had learned, even in the first hours of their meeting, that things were rarely as simple as they seemed. Leora turned away from the balcony, a thoughtful smile touching her lips. Tomorrow she would face him again, and this time she hoped she would see more than the rumors. She would see the man himself. The morning on Zephyra began with a soft violet light that filtered through the palace's crystalline windows. Princess Leora stood in her chambers, brushing a strand of glowing hair from her face. Today she would meet Captain Alex Mercer again. She felt a flutter of nerves tempered by curiosity. The human had not been the fearsome figure she had imagined. If anything, he seemed thoughtful. Down in the palace gardens, Alex waited with a serene expression. The floating gardens were unlike anything he had ever seen. Trees hovered gracefully above the ground, their roots gently swaying as if dancing to some unseen rhythm. Streams of bioluminescent water flowed between the gardens, reflecting the light of the twin suns. Alex's hand hovered over a tablet that displayed a guide to the gardens, but he hardly needed it. Zephyra itself seemed alive, guiding his steps. When Leora approached, Alex straightened. Her presence was commanding yet approachable, a combination he had not expected. She nodded politely, and for a moment the two simply observed the gardens together, allowing the quiet to settle around them. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Leora said softly, her eyes tracing the curves of a floating bridge above them. Alex nodded. "It is. It feels peaceful, alive. I've never seen anything like it." "You'll get used to it," Leora replied with a small smile. "Or at least I hope you do." Their first task of the day was part of a traditional Zephyrian ritual known as the Path of Understanding. It was designed for couples to learn to work together, relying on communication, observation, and trust. The path wound through the floating forests and over the energy streams that supplied the city. At first, Leora felt a pang of dread. Walking these paths required balance and focus, something she had mastered, but Alex was human. "I won't fall," he said when he noticed her hesitation. "I've handled worse terrains than this." Leora raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement in her expression. "Worse? That's quite a claim for someone who hasn't even stepped onto one of our floating bridges before." "I like to test myself," Alex said, his tone casual but confident. As they stepped onto the first bridge, Leora noticed how carefully Alex placed each foot. Unlike some of her people, who moved with natural agility, Alex measured each step, but he never hesitated. There was a methodical grace in his movements that impressed her. The path took them across energy streams that pulsed with light. To maintain balance, the travelers had to step in rhythm with the flow. Leora demonstrated easily, gliding across, but she noticed Alex adjusting, adapting, and always observing before acting. He was not reckless. He was careful, strategic, and attentive. "You're not as ruthless as they say," Leora remarked when they paused at a high platform overlooking the city. Alex chuckled lightly. "Ruthless? That's a harsh label. I follow orders, yes. I make decisions. But ruthless? That's up to interpretation, isn't it?" Leora studied him, surprised by his honesty. Most people would have denied the rumors outright. But he simply acknowledged them and offered his own perspective. She found herself nodding, intrigued by his clarity. The next stage of the path was a series of puzzles designed to challenge communication and teamwork. Each puzzle required two people to work in perfect coordination. The first involved activating a series of floating platforms in the correct sequence to reach a glowing crystal. Leora immediately took the lead, explaining her reasoning and timing. Alex observed carefully, then offered adjustments that improved her plan. Together they reached the crystal on the first attempt. "That was impressive," Leora said, genuine admiration in her voice. Alex shook his head, smiling. "No, that was teamwork. You made the plan. I just helped make it work." The two spent hours navigating the path of understanding. They climbed energy spires, crossed floating gardens, and solved increasingly complex puzzles. Leora found herself laughing more than she had in weeks, her tension easing with each shared success. Alex's quiet humor and steady presence made her feel unexpectedly comfortable. As the sun reached its highest point, the duo reached a clearing where the final challenge awaited. A large crystalline cavern had opened before them, glowing faintly with internal energy. Leora stepped forward cautiously. "This is the last test," she said. "We must retrieve the central crystal and return it to the entrance." Alex examined the cavern. "It looks fragile. And those energy currents? They shift quickly." "Exactly," Leora replied. "We need precision, trust, and timing." The cavern was alive, reacting to their movements. Platforms shifted, energy streams pulsed unpredictably, and crystals glowed brighter or dimmer depending on their positions. Leora led the way, carefully instructing Alex on the steps. Together they moved with synchronization, each action measured, each word intentional. Suddenly, the floor beneath Leora cracked. Before she could react, she slipped, but Alex's reflexes were immediate. He reached out, catching her hand and pulling her to safety. For a moment they hung there, suspended above the glowing abyss, their hands clasped tightly. Leora's heart raced, not from fear, but from the realization that Alex had acted without hesitation, without thought for his own safety. "You're very brave," Leora said softly once they were safely on solid ground. Alex shrugged modestly. "I'm careful, but yes, I wouldn't leave you to fall. That's not how I operate." Leora blinked, struck by the sincerity in his voice. She had imagined a man who acted without regard for others. But here he was, proving that courage and care could coexist. They retrieved the central crystal together, placing it carefully on a pedestal. The cavern glowed brighter, a sign of success, and a soft hum resonated through the air. Leora smiled at Alex, feeling a sense of connection that went beyond protocol or politics. As they made their way back to the palace, they spoke of their lives, their hopes, and their fears. Alex shared stories of Earth, of distant planets he had visited, and the challenges he had faced. Leora spoke of Zephyra, of her responsibilities and of the weight of expectation that rested on her shoulders. "You carry so much," Alex said quietly, "and yet you handle it with grace. I can see why your people respect you so deeply." Leora felt a warmth spread through her chest. No one had spoken to her like that before. Not her advisors, not her family, not even her closest friends. "And you," she replied, "carry your responsibilities with calm. You are not what I expected." "Neither are you," Alex said, a faint smile touching his lips. By the time they reached the palace, the twin suns were lowering again, casting a soft golden glow across the city. Leora felt a mix of relief and curiosity. She had feared this day, but it had turned out to be enlightening. Alex Mercer was not the ruthless figure she had imagined. He was thoughtful, brave, and surprisingly considerate. That evening, as she returned to her chambers, Leora gazed once more at the horizon. Change was coming faster than she had anticipated, and though the path ahead was still uncertain, she felt a new sense of hope. Perhaps the man she was to marry was not a tyrant, but a partner. Perhaps the rumors had hidden the truth all along. Somewhere in the palace, Alex prepared for the next day, unaware that Leora had already begun to see him in a new light. The alliance was still necessary, the politics still delicate, but for the first time, both of them glimpsed the possibility that respect, trust, and understanding could turn a duty into something far greater. And so, as Zephyra's night sky shimmered with stars and energy streams, two worlds drew closer, not just through obligation but through a growing bond, one built on courage, shared experiences, and the willingness to look beyond fear into the heart of another. The day began with a soft mist rolling over Zephyra's floating forests. Princess Leora awoke with a sense of anticipation and unease. Today, she and Captain Alex Mercer were to undertake a journey outside the safety of the palace grounds, a test of trust and cooperation designed by Zephyra's Council of Elders. The path led through the crystal ravines, a region known for both its breathtaking beauty and unpredictable energy storms. Leora dressed in a lightweight exploration suit that allowed free movement while offering protection from environmental hazards. As she descended the palace staircase, she found Alex already waiting near the airship dock. The human's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the flutter of nerves she felt. "Good morning, Princess," Alex greeted with a small smile. "Are you ready for an adventure?" "I suppose I have no choice," Leora replied, though her tone held a trace of amusement. "The Council expects this mission to prove our compatibility," Alex chuckled softly. "Compatibility, teamwork, trust. All the ingredients for a successful partnership." They boarded the airship, a sleek craft designed for navigating the floating terrain of Zephyra. The engines hummed quietly, lifting them above the palace and into the mist-shrouded forests below. Leora peered out of the window, mesmerized by the view. Giant crystal spires jutted from the ground, refracting light into brilliant rainbows. Streams of glowing water wound their way through the ravines, and creatures with delicate wings darted between the floating rocks. "This place is incredible," Alex said, following her gaze. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." "It is our home," Leora replied softly. "And it's beautiful, but dangerous." The airship descended carefully, landing on a plateau near the entrance to the ravines. The mission was simple in theory: traverse the crystal ravines, retrieve a rare energy crystal, and return safely. But the terrain was treacherous, and the ravines were known for sudden shifts in energy that could throw even experienced travelers off balance. As they stepped onto solid ground, Leora felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of minerals and ozone. Alex adjusted the strap of his exploration pack, scanning the surroundings with attentive eyes. "Stay close," Leora warned, her tone firm but not unkind. "The paths can change without warning." Alex nodded. "I'm right here." The journey began with careful steps along narrow crystal ledges. The ground shimmered beneath their feet, reflecting the twin suns and creating the illusion that the cliffs were floating in midair. Leora moved gracefully, her experience in Zephyra's terrain evident. Alex followed steadily, watching her movements and mimicking her balance, adapting quickly to the alien environment. Halfway through the first ravine, they encountered a sudden energy surge. A crackling wave of light shot across the path, forcing them to leap to a nearby platform. Leora landed perfectly, but Alex's foot slipped slightly. With a swift reach, she grabbed his arm, steadying him before he could fall. Thank you, he said, steadying himself and smiling. I might have underestimated this place. You must pay attention to every detail, Leora replied, her voice tinged with amusement. Even a small mistake could be costly. They continued, moving in unspoken coordination. Each challenge they faced required trust and communication. In one section, floating crystal platforms shifted unpredictably. Leora instructed Alex on the timing, and he responded with precision, showing a careful balance of observation and action. You're very observant, Leora remarked. Not many humans adapt so quickly. Alex tilted his head, a faint smile on his lips. I've learned that observation is as important as action, and so far I have an excellent teacher. The compliment made Leora pause, and for a moment she felt a flicker of warmth. She had been wary of Alex, but he was proving himself not just competent but thoughtful. He did not rush, did not underestimate the challenges, and he respected her guidance. As they entered the heart of the ravines, the challenges intensified. The cliffs became steeper and energy surges more frequent. A sudden storm of light and wind forced them to take cover under a giant crystal formation. The wind howled and the mist thickened, making visibility almost impossible. This storm is unlike anything I've trained for, Alex admitted, gripping the crystal for support. Leora nodded. We must wait it out. Rushing now could be dangerous. They huddled together, sharing minimal conversation, listening to the storm around them. Leora observed Alex's calm demeanor, noting how he adjusted to the situation without panic. She had expected him to act rashly, relying solely on strength or aggression, but he was methodical, patient, and aware of the dangers. When the storm subsided, they pressed on. The final stretch of the ravines required climbing a series of crystal spires to reach the rare energy crystal. The climb was exhausting, testing both their physical strength and endurance. Leora moved with practiced skill while Alex followed, his determination clear in every careful movement. Halfway up, a spire began to tremble beneath them. Leora's heart leapt as she tried to stabilize herself. Alex immediately acted, supporting her and reinforcing her grip with precise movements. Together they reached the summit, standing before the glowing energy crystal. Leora held her hand over it, feeling the energy pulse beneath her fingers. We did it, she said, her voice tinged with relief and triumph. Alex smiled, exhaustion evident in his stance but pride in his eyes. We did it together. As they began their descent, a sudden shift in the energy currents caused part of the crystal path to break away. Leora lost her footing for a moment, but Alex's reflexes were immediate. He grabbed her hand and anchored himself, allowing them both to recover safely. You saved me, Leora said, her voice soft but sincere. I saved us, Alex corrected gently. We rely on each other. That's what makes us strong. The words resonated with her. For so long she had feared humans and their unpredictable ways, but here was one who acted with courage, intelligence, and a sense of partnership. Leora felt a new respect growing in her heart, a respect that went beyond politics or obligation. By the time they returned to the airship, the twin suns were low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the ravines. Leora felt a sense of accomplishment, but also a shift in her perception of Alex Mercer. He was not the ruthless man the rumors had portrayed. He was careful, strategic, courageous, and surprisingly considerate. During the flight back to the palace, they shared stories of their experiences and observations. Leora spoke of the history of Zephyra, its ancient traditions, and the challenges of leadership. Alex shared tales of Earth, its diversity, and the lessons he had learned from his service in difficult missions. You understand people well, Leora said, glancing at him. I did not expect a human to have such insight. Alex shook his head with a slight smile. Humans are capable of much more than we are often given credit for. And I've had good teachers. Leora's lips curved into a thoughtful smile. She realized that she too had been a teacher. In guiding Alex through the challenges, she had seen his qualities emerge, qualities that did not fit the narrative she had been given. Back at the palace, they were greeted by Elder Tyron, who had observed part of their journey through monitoring devices. Impressive, he said. Your coordination and teamwork exceeded expectations. You are learning to trust one another. Leora nodded, feeling a quiet satisfaction. We are, she admitted. Perhaps trust is easier than I imagined, once you see the truth for yourself. As night fell, the palace shimmered under the glow of Zephyra's energy streams. Leora stood at her balcony, watching the lights of the city below. Alex's presence lingered in her thoughts, not as a threat, not as a stranger, but as someone she was beginning to understand and respect. Somewhere across the palace, Alex reviewed the mission data, reflecting on the day. He had seen Leora's intelligence, grace, and courage in action, and he felt a growing admiration for her. She was not just a princess. She was a leader, a partner, and someone who challenged him in ways he had not anticipated. As they both looked out into the night, separated by distance but connected by shared experience, a sense of possibility emerged. The journey ahead would not be simple. Politics, responsibilities, and expectations still loomed. Yet for the first time, both Leora and Alex glimpsed a potential partnership built on respect, courage, and understanding. The crystal ravines had tested them physically and mentally, but it had also tested their trust. And in that trust, they had found the beginnings of something stronger than rumors, stronger than fear. A connection that might one day become the foundation for far more than duty. The morning sun rose slowly over Zephyra, painting the palace in soft shades of gold and violet. Princess Leora stood on her balcony, gazing at the floating city below. After their journey through the crystal ravines, her thoughts kept returning to Captain Alex Mercer. The human had proven himself brave, patient, and thoughtful. He was nothing like the ruthless figure she had feared. Today was different. The Council of Elders had arranged a diplomatic gathering, a meeting of leaders from neighboring systems. As part of the alliance, Leora and Alex were expected to present a united front. Their partnership was now more than personal. It was political, a symbol of trust and cooperation between Zephyra and Earth. Leora adjusted the ceremonial sash across her shoulder, its threads shimmering with energy. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had spent weeks preparing for her duties as princess, but nothing compared to standing beside someone from another world, someone whose actions could impact the lives of millions. Alex appeared at the doorway, his expression calm and composed. "Good morning, Princess. Ready for the day?" Leora smiled. "As ready as I'll ever be. Are you?" "I've been ready since yesterday," Alex replied with a faint smile. "But I expect today will teach us both something new." Together they walked to the grand hall where the assembly awaited. Leaders from multiple planets had gathered, their appearances diverse and awe-inspiring. Some floated above the ground using advanced technology, while others moved with natural grace through the air. Leora and Alex's presence drew attention immediately. The alliance between Earth and Zephyra was one of the most anticipated partnerships in recent history. As they entered, the hall fell into respectful silence. Leora felt a surge of responsibility, but also a quiet confidence. Alex walked beside her with steady, measured steps, his posture relaxed but authoritative. He exuded a presence that commanded attention without demanding it. Leora realized that the human was beginning to impress not only her but everyone around them. The first portion of the gathering involved introductions and ceremonial exchanges. Leora spoke first, her voice clear and strong, welcoming the assembled leaders and emphasizing the importance of trust, cooperation, and mutual respect. Alex followed, briefly sharing his perspective on Earth and expressing admiration for Zephyra's culture and achievements. After the formalities, the Council of Elders presented a challenge, a simulated crisis designed to test the effectiveness of the alliance. A holographic projection displayed a series of natural disasters affecting multiple planets. Leaders were asked to propose coordinated solutions that required strategic thinking, negotiation, and collaboration. Leora and Alex approached the task together. Leora analyzed the patterns of the simulations, suggesting strategies to minimize harm and efficiently allocate resources. Alex listened carefully, then offered tactical solutions based on human experience and technology. Their ideas complemented one another perfectly, blending Zephyra's understanding of energy systems with Earth's logistical expertise. "This approach could save countless lives," Leora said, impressed by Alex's insight. "And yours ensures that we respect the needs of each planet," Alex replied. "Together, our solutions are stronger than either of us alone." Their teamwork drew attention from the other leaders, who began to nod in agreement. The simulations progressed, becoming more complex and challenging but Leora and Alex handled them with increasing confidence. They communicated seamlessly, anticipating each other's thoughts and movements. The human she had once feared now seemed indispensable, a partner in every sense. After hours of collaboration, the final simulation concluded successfully. The assembly erupted in applause, acknowledging the effectiveness of their combined efforts. Leora and Alex shared a brief glance, both aware that this success was more than a test. It was proof that trust and cooperation could overcome even the most daunting challenges. Later, in a quieter section of the palace, Leora and Alex reflected on the day. The hallways were filled with soft light, and the hum of energy from the city below created a serene atmosphere. "You handled yourself very well today," Leora said, her voice thoughtful. I didn't expect that we would work so well together." Alex smiled. "Neither did I. But I've learned that understanding each other makes a difference. You taught me more than I could have imagined about your world and about leadership." Leora felt a warmth in her chest. "And you taught me that humans are not so simple as rumors claim. You have integrity, patience, and courage, all the things I thought a human like you might lack." Alex's expression softened. "I'm glad you see that. I hoped you would." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from the palace security system. A small transport shuttle had lost control near the city outskirts, and it was heading toward the energy streams that powered the lower districts. Without hesitation, Leora and Alex moved to the observation deck overlooking the city. The shuttle appeared as a tiny speck against the sky, drifting dangerously close to the glowing energy currents. Leora's heart raced. "We have to help them," she said. Alex nodded. "I'll pilot the airship. You guide me with your knowledge of Zephyr's currents." They worked together seamlessly. Leora directed Alex through the safest paths, pointing out energy surges and unstable areas. Alex maneuvered with precision, trusting her instincts completely. As they approached the shuttle, they saw the passengers, a family of Zephyrians, struggling to maintain control. "Hold on," Alex called, adjusting the airship's thrusters. He extended the craft's mechanical arms to stabilize the shuttle, while Leora guided them with calm, precise directions. Every second counted, but their combined skills turned a potential disaster into a successful rescue. When the shuttle was finally secured, the passengers cheered, expressing gratitude. Leora allowed herself a small smile, feeling a sense of accomplishment she had rarely experienced. Alex gave her a nod, silent acknowledgement of their shared effort. Back at the palace, Elder Tyron observed their return with a satisfied expression. "You handled that crisis with remarkable efficiency," he said. "Your partnership is no longer just symbolic. It is practical, effective, and inspiring." Leora nodded, her mind reflecting on the day's events. Alex had not only proven himself capable, but had also shown the qualities she valued most: integrity, courage, and empathy. The human she had dreaded marrying was becoming someone she respected, and perhaps in ways she did not fully understand, admired. As night fell over Zephyra, the city shimmered beneath the twin moons. Leora and Alex stood on the palace balcony, gazing at the lights below. The day had tested them, challenged them, and shown them the power of cooperation. Yet more than that, it had changed their perception of each other. "You know," Leora said quietly, "I never thought I would say this, but I feel lucky that you are here." Alex turned to her, surprised but pleased. "Lucky? That's not a word I expected from a princess about a human soldier." Leora smiled softly. "Nor I from you. But it is true. Today I saw who you really are, and I trust you." Alex's expression softened. "Thank you, Leora. That means more than you might realize. And I trust you as well. Not just as a partner in this alliance, but as someone I can rely on." For a moment they stood in silence, watching the city's glow reflect in the streams below. The political obligations remained. The pressures of leadership persisted, but in that quiet moment, they found something more: mutual respect, understanding, and the beginnings of a genuine bond. The events of the day had transformed Leora's perception of Alex. The human she had feared for being ruthless was, in truth, thoughtful, courageous, and principled. Likewise, Alex had come to appreciate Leora's intelligence, grace, and strength. Together they had faced challenges, saved lives, and proven that partnership was not defined by rumors or appearances but by action, trust, and understanding. As the palace settled into the calm of night, Leora reflected on the journey that had begun with fear and uncertainty. She had dreaded meeting a stranger, a human rumored to be cold and ruthless. Yet the experiences of the past days had shown her a different reality. Alex Mercer was not the man of stories or warnings. He was someone she could respect, admire, and perhaps even look forward to knowing better. Somewhere across the city, Alex reviewed the events as well, realizing that the alliance was more than a mission. It was an opportunity to build trust, not only between worlds but between hearts. He had met a princess whose intelligence and strength matched his own values, and in guiding and learning from one another, they had discovered a connection neither had anticipated. And so, as Zephyra's twin moons reflected light across the floating city, Leora and Alex faced a future that was still uncertain, still filled with obligations and responsibilities, but now also filled with promise. Two worlds had come together, not just through politics or necessity, but through understanding, courage, and the power of trust. The princess who had dreaded marrying a ruthless human now looked upon him with admiration, respect, and a growing sense of partnership. And the human who had once been a stranger in a foreign world had found in her not just a leader to support, but someone whose strength and wisdom inspired him in ways he had never expected.